As you've heard from the sting there, it is time for You Had to Be There. I'm delighted to say it's a very special episode today. Nooruddean Choudry, who's a football writer, Manchester expert, and Naz is what it says in front of me here, and an interesting things beyond the whitewash as well. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Manchester expert, that's a good one. Does that mean that I know all about the Gallaghers and everything?
Got the keys to Manchester, yeah, the Stone Roses, everything.
Lowry was Manchester, wasn't he? Am I wrong about that? Right, we've got a very, I don't know, can I say eclectic mix of stuff here, even though it all is hooked generally around one sport.
Yeah.
You're going to kick us off, take us back to 1994, an unusual starting spot.
Yeah, so it was basically, it was a charity game it's a charity cricket game, and it was Manchester United versus, I think they were called the Cheetham Hill Celebrity 11, which was basically just the odd Coronation Street actor, and it was just mad having all these heroes at my local cricket club, and it kind of points to the era as well, because you wouldn't get that now. It was just what it was it's a very small cricket club, and they have like a small pavilion, and we could just mingle with the players, who were getting more and more merry as the day went on, because it was kind of like a charity thing, so they were allowed to drink. Ferguson allowed them to drink that day. So yeah, you had people like Brian Robson, Mark Hughes, Clayton Blackmore. You also had City players, all the greats like Fitzroy Simpson, Paul Walsh, Peter Beagre. So legends on both sides. But it was it was an amazing experience, and especially at that age, it was like, what are these people doing here? It was like a weird dream.
Was there like a huge crowd at it, or was it a hugely publicised thing that like thousands turned up for, or no?
No, it was so weird. There must have been like maybe 100 of us there. So it was quite intimate, and I don't know how we found out about it, but we ended up going down, and it was funny because I was quite shy to sort of ask for something, because everyone was asking for autographs, and they were obliging. They were being dead nice. I mean, in fact, like one of the nicest people there was David Rocastle. He was lovely. But I was quite shy to ask for autographs, and then I saw like a kindly old Asian guy, and like I used the old uncle card. Whenever you see sort of a brown man of a certain age, went uncle. And then he sort of turned around and said, can you get us some autographs? Because he was with the players sort of in the pavilion. So he was dead nice, and like he took my program off me and basically got a load of signatures. And I thought, like, what a nice man. And then like later on I found out he was actually a really famous Indian cricketer called Farooq Engineer, who played like 46 tests. So
and he's looking at you going, kid, what? I mean, I know, I get the play here, but come on.
Yeah, also, but that's the thing. That's the thing about uncles. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in Ireland. It's probably it's like how Irish people feel about that Matt LeBlanc meme, sort of like his universal uncle.
Yeah. The arms crossed and all the rest. Yeah. It's funny. It's like that time someone at the airport, was it Higuain and Messi? Someone asked Messi to take their phone and take a photograph of them with one of Messi's teammates, or maybe it was Suarez, maybe. But it's one of those. Were any of the footballers really, really good at cricket? Like famously, and probably a couple of years after, but Phil Neville was a top level cricketer.
He was famously good. Lee Sharp was good, and I think Paul Walsh was good as well. Paul Walsh was going through his proper sort of like Hollywood star in his own head, like with the blonde flowing locks. So yeah, he was loving it. But no, it was good. But I'll be honest, I wasn't really interested in the cricket. I was just staring at all the players, thinking, "What are you doing here?"
Do you still have the autographs?
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. I'll have to dig it out. But yeah, I've still got the program. There's like one or two autographs that I'm not sure who that is, but yeah, the rest of them. It could have. I was so giddy that day. I could have like been going to the groundsman and sort of saying, "Can I have your autograph as well?" I mean, considering I couldn't identify a world famous cricketer, I was just going around asking for everyone's autograph.
Did you get any of the Coronation Street stars? Was that just like who are these old people?
I didn't. Well, I don't really. I know it's sacrilege for a Mancunian, but I don't really watch Coronation Street.
No, come on.
Yeah, so I think I got a couple, but I think there was somebody Middlemiss and somebody Lavelle. But,
did he play Kevin Webster? I mean, I don't know why I know this information.
Oh yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
I thought that was a rite of passage. To be from Manchester, you had to watch Corrie.
Well, the funny thing is that my first job after university was working at Granada Studios, just in a like finance job. And like I once got told off for trespassing onto the cobbles.
And you're like, no, these are my mates. I know all these guys. We hang out, we play cricket. Yeah. That was Robson. Had he finished at United at that point, Noz, or was he still?
It might
94, have just, he was, yeah.
Yeah, he might have just left. Yeah, I think, and again, the funny thing with Ferguson is that everyone thinks of him as being like dead, sort of authoritarian and sort of like saying to players, "You can't drink, you can't go out." The one exception was like charity things. Like, if ever there was a situation like that, like he'd let them sort of like let their hair down, and Brian Robson, as we well know, did let his hair down when a drink was available.
I suspect they might have organised a lot of charity things.
Exactly.
Take us forward 6 years. You want to talk about United 3, Fiorentina 1, and one Argentinian specifically.
Yeah, that's the thing, because growing up, especially with the when Channel 4 got the rights to Italian football, it was so glamorous, and I completely fell in love with Italian football and all these incredible stars. But the thing is that they felt so otherworldly. Like English football was great, and we had our own sort of stars, and we also, that was a stage where a lot of great players would come to this country from abroad, like Klinsmann and Ruud Gullit and all sorts. But there was something about Italian football that just seemed like it was from another planet. It just seemed more glamorous. All the goals seemed better, which is funny, really, because like I think I enjoyed the Gazzetta football roundup on Saturday morning more than I did the actual matches on a Sunday. Because when you actually watched a match all the way through, you realised it was far slower. There was fewer goals, but that didn't sort of stop me from sort of idolising half the players. But the biggest stars for me were always Baggio and Batistuta. And Batistuta in particular, the way he played, he felt like a superhero. Like he looked like a superhero, and the power he got into his shots, and like the way he played as a centre forward was unreal. So when there was a chance to watch him at Old Trafford, I was buzzing. We'd lost when we'd gone to Fiorentina earlier in the season. So when they came to Old Trafford, there was a little bit of nervousness. But the thing is, we won 3-1, and all of United's goals were actually really, really good. Andy Cole scored from outside the area. Dwight York scored from a really good header from a really good cross, and Roy Keane probably scored the best goal of the game technically, because it was one of those that I think somebody took a shot. It might have come off the
Henning Berg had taken a shot back off the crossbar.
Yeah, and then he it was a really hard volley, because it came straight at him, and Roy Keane had to sort of volley it first, and you could tell it was a volley because it didn't touch the floor. So it was really, really good. But
I was like, is he what?
See what you did there.
We're on the same wavelength, Noz. Yeah, that's well observed.
Can you see my point? No, it's
apropos of nothing, obviously.
But the thing is, in spite of how good United's goals were, and obviously I was so chuffed that we'd won. The one thing that made it memorable was seeing Batistuta play, and he scored the first goal, and it was the classic Batistuta goal where he got the ball maybe 30 yards out. Didn't look like there was any issue. United didn't even do anything wrong in terms of defending. Like the positioning, everything was fine. Those players sort of like closing him down, but he didn't need sort of. He only needed like half a yard, and he just let fly. And in terms of like an opposition goal, like that's probably the best I've seen at Old Trafford, and the power he got into it. And again, it's this thing like I heard briefly a conversation about how it's best to experience sport earlier, and the thing with that goal is that you'll watch it back on YouTube or whatever, and it looks like an amazing goal, but I don't think you realise how good it was unless you were there. The power he got in it, and also when you watch it on TV or you watch it on YouTube, you'll notice that the ball kind of hits the goal, like the net in the centre. So you kind of think, well, surely Bosnich should have saved that, but but if you were there, you'd realise like it was past him before he knew it, and it sort of had that swaz, so it was just unstoppable.
That was the thing. I remember watching that game as a kid on TV, and I was a United fan, but buying a Batistuta Fiorentina jersey after. It was just the long hair, the hairband, and then it was the noise on TV when the ball hit the net. Like, you almost feared for Bosnić's safety. It was hit with that much power. But did it make a noise? It almost made the perfect noise when it hits the net. This is like a real niche football thing.
Yeah.
But you know that perfect sound when it hits the net. It just seemed like one of those unbelievable strikes, Nos.
It wasn't, and it's that rasp as well of the net, but it doesn't happen very often. But you occasionally get the kind of, because the thing is, most goals, the fans are anticipating it, so there's almost a build-up of excitement, and then it happens, and there's a crescendo of noise. Very occasionally, what happens is there's a goal that's not expected, so they've not that build-up of noise, and it happens, and there's almost like a half a second of silence where people are computing, did that just happen? And it kind of felt like that, where he scored, and then it was like, how did he do that? Like, and it kind of sort of built up that sort of idea that he was otherworldly. And the annoying thing is that I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it was like in Ireland, but growing up, teletext was a big thing, and especially on ITV, they had this thing where it would be like one page of two, and the second page would always be adverts of like these numbers you could call for like transfer gossip, and it was all rubbish. But every so often there'd be one in like a particular colour, and it'd be flashing, so as if it's like breaking news or it's going to happen. And the amount of times United were linked to Batistuta on those on those calls, and like mugs like me getting giddy and sort of thinking, like, could I get away with ringing it without sort of making the phone bill astronomical? But yeah, I would have loved him at United.
The CFAX, that teletext, like, I still remember the numbers on the BBC. I got on to 323 for news and brief, 338 for newspaper gossip, 301 for the sport, 303 for the football. Right, yeah. I just remembered them all off.
And you'd be waiting for the pages to flip as well, because you'd have results. If there was enough games on, you'd have results in 2 pages, and you'd be like waiting for the results to see come up.
Exactly.
I mean, imagine consuming sport in that such a one-dimensional way is incredible.
And then sometimes the sort of games would be 2 pages. And then if it sort of suddenly flipped to 3 pages, you thought, there's been a goal, because like they've had to use a third page.
That's right, yeah. I don't know, I'll have to wait a half an hour for it to flick back to page 1.
The Irish one, on the OTE one, I think you had the Premier League scores had a specific page, 220, I think it was, or 222, and then the Irish, if there was an Irish goal scorer, you'd have that name in green.
That's right.
It's brilliant.
Oh, wow.
You're mad looking for all these green goal scorers. Robbie Keane.
We're not obsessed with ourselves or anything.
Brilliant.
Right, flip us on. We're going forward a few more years now. We're up to 2013 and Fergie's final game at Old Trafford.
Yeah, and it was the thing is that obviously it was the end of an era, but like it's almost a case of you don't realise it at the time, and then it's only afterwards that you realise how monumental it was. Because and again, like, this is almost sacrilege, but because Ferguson had been there so long, there was almost a sense of like it was quite exciting for there to be a new era. And like, we didn't know how the new era was going to turn out, and how sort of barren it was going to be, and how much of a mess it was going to be. But when you've had a manager for that long, it's the whole sort of process of getting a new manager and scouring the whole world for the most world-class option and finding David Moyes. It's kind of quite exciting. And like even David Moyes, like it was a point at which football still felt quite local. And the idea of getting David Moyes in, who was like quite a local manager and had that sort of Scottish thing going on, and like there's that aura of like Scottish managers, especially at that time. Like you had like Shankly, you had Busby, and like basically all these managers that had grown that had lived in the same area, and there was things like David Moyes' granddad, something new, Ferguson or something like that. So there was all that background, and it was stuff, and there was all like little flags and stuff to like make a mosaic, and I always find that massively cringe. And it was at the it's funnily enough, it was at Wembley with the League Cup final a week or so ago with like the flags and scarves, and I always find that cringe because it always feels like manufactured atmosphere. But the funny thing with that game is I took my nephew, and it was my nephew's first ever game.
Wow.
And for that to be for Ferguson's last game to be my nephew's first game, it sort of amplified it, and it made it bigger for me because he was so excited. He was so excited to get his flag, and he was, and I think we all bemoan half and half scarves and kind of think like, oh, who buys those? It's kids. Kids buy it because they want to wear it the next day and prove that they went to the game, and like it gives you a different perspective on so many things if you go with a kid, and it sort of renews your excitement for it. And the actual credit to United, they sort of organised it really well, and the game was kind of it was fitting because it was 1-1, and then Rio Ferdinand scored a late goal, which was always the Fergie way, and it was like an incredible sort of like goal scorer's finish as well, considering he'd not scored for years.
You mentioned about sorry, Naz, you mentioned about people like not been unaware of what was to come, right? Like, the Barron years, and like the Moyes thing just made sense. I mean, Fergie had handpicked him and all this sort of, but I watched back after the on the pitch speech last night, and like it gets remembered for the "your job new" bit, but actually, like looking back to it, and maybe there's a bit of hindsight here, but he references his own shaky start, and there's like an uproarious sort of response from the crowd, obviously, about David Moyes and the your job new. Okay, this, everybody understood that, and we will stick by David Moyes. And it wasn't long before, like, the knives were out. It almost felt as if Ferguson himself had an awareness of this is not, this group are an ageing group, and this is not going to go. Moyes may have to go through what I went through.
Oh, completely. And the thing is that, like, even at the time, it kind of felt as though, like, how is Fergie winning the league with this team? And again, like so much of it was finding a way. Ferguson always found a way. I always say that Ferguson's greatest attribute was pragmatism. He wasn't I don't think he was a purist. It wasn't always about playing the beautiful game or sort of sticking to your principles. He didn't even treat all the players the same. He was extremely strict on players like Lee Sharp and Ryan Giggs and the younger homegrown players. But then he understood that Cantona needed to be treated differently and things like that. So even with that team, he bought in Van Persie because he knew that Van Persie was this amazing temporary sticking plaster. So it was going to be difficult whoever came in. Yeah. But also, we can't romanticize the past and act as if like the sort of modern fan is any different from previous generations in terms of giving managers time, because I think part of what Ferguson was saying there in terms of like your job is to trust the new manager is because not only did he know that it's going to be a difficult job, but he remembers when he was getting grief. Like for the first, like up until that 1990 FA Cup final win, there was the fans wanted him out. Like, and if you look at like the fanzines at that time, he's getting lots of criticism, and a lot of it was sort of fair enough in terms of the money he'd spent and the time he'd had. And there's a famous sign to Ra Fergie that somebody put together. So things don't really change that much, and fans have always been as fickle or not fickle as they've always been. But yeah, it was an emotional day, and the fact that I got to share it with my nephew, and he can now say that was his first game. That's what kind of made it special.
Yeah, I'm with you on the half and half scarves as well. I just way too much chat and fuss about that. Atletico Madrid 2, Osasuna 1. The same year, and you want to talk to us about Diego Simeone, especially?
Yeah, so that was a city break that I went on with my mates, and we decided to go to Madrid. And like, because we were going to Madrid on that particular weekend or whenever it was like, oh, let's try and go to a game. So we really wanted to go to the Bernabeu and really wanted to go and see Real Madrid, but they happened to be playing away. And it's like, like just our luck. We don't get to see Real Madrid, and we're going to Madrid. And it was almost like a booby prize of like, oh, well, Atletico are playing at home. Let's go and see them. So like we weren't that excited, but we went along anyway just to experience it. And the experience in itself was amazing because it was their old Calderon Stadium. So it wasn't the sort of identikit amazing new stadium they've got now. So it had like a bit of a old school feel to it. Even to the extent that like within the stadium they were selling kind of like homemade baguettes rather than anything packaged, and all the fans were eating these little, I don't know if they were pine nuts or like sunflower seeds or something, but they were all eating them. And if you look down on the sort of like stands, it was covered in like the shells, and it was little things like that made it so interesting. And there was even like amongst their sort of ultras, there was a massive sign that said something like 88 years, and it had like obviously a start and end date of like somebody who'd passed away. And like I was like, oh, like as a legend died or something, and then got talking to somebody a fan that was there who could speak English, and they explained it was for a supporter who'd been a season ticket holder for like 8 decades, and that was amazing that they had that sense of community, that they were acknowledging just a supporter with a massive banner. And the funny thing is, first of all, Atletico Madrid actually won the league that season, so it was the first time they'd done it in years and years, so that made it special. But there's I sent a photo of like so we were at the front, and the security wasn't what you'd expect at a top game. Like it wasn't what it would be at United, and me and my mate sort of got to the front, and Simeone wasn't too far away on the touchline, and because you're on holiday and you're giddy and you sort of think, oh, like you're behaving a certain. I just started shouting his name constantly just to be annoying. I was like, Simeone, over here, Simeone, and like sort of like saying like, are you scared? And then at one point he turned around and he'd heard me, and he started coming towards me. And I absolutely bricked myself. and the image the photo that I've sent to you now, is him coming towards me.
Jesus,
I thought that was like a stock photograph that we had taken. Wow.
No, that's I took that photo just before quickly running up the stand.
What do you think he was coming to say to you?
I have no idea. That was the mad thing. Like I had no idea he could hear me. And it was just like, what was going to happen? Was he just sick of? Was it like Alan Partridge when he keeps saying Dan, and it was just so annoying that he'd had enough. But like, I panicked and ran away. I'm angry and I'm not going to take it anymore. In whatever version that he might have said that. Exactly. Yeah. So that was my memory of the game, and yeah. I mean, the actual game. I mean, it was quite sort of straightforward. I think they won 2-1. Diego Costa scored twice. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'll remember it for like annoying Simeone and not wanting to be part of that exchange. Not many people can say they've faced down Diego Simeone for sure. Your last selection. Neither can Naz. No. Well, yeah. Tried to. Your last pick, Naz, is similar along the veins of Ferguson's last game at Swansea. It's Arsenal Burnley at the Emirates, 6th of May 2018. Wenger's last home game, 5-0 win anyway for Arsenal. Yeah. It was his last home game, so it was the big, similar to Fergie. It was the big sort of goodbye that Arsenal were going to give him. And again, like I think I don't know why I was down in London. It wasn't for the game, but it might have been for work or whatever. But because that game was happening and it was close by to where I was, I kind of like did my best to get a ticket, and by some amazing sort of like I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get a ticket. So I went down, and it was just really interesting to sort of experience that similar situation, but with another club. I mean, one thing that they did things really well. The difference between the Fergie goodbye and the Wenger goodbye is that when Fergie left, it was raining and it was miserable weather. But on Arsene Wenger's last game, it was a beautiful day, really, really sunny, and it was perfect in that respect. And everyone got a T-shirt, and obviously I didn't wear it. But I think the two things I got out of it was, I realised that I'm not really a football fan. Like, I couldn't care less about the goals, and I couldn't there was a good atmosphere, and I just thought like this is a good atmosphere, but it's not my atmosphere. Like I think it just sort of cemented to me that I'm I'm a United fan, not a football fan. Like I can't be a neutral, and I can't like get into the sort of feeling of sort of enjoying someone else's moment. And also the other thing was it was so respectful, and it was so sort of adoring of Wenger. And Wenger was, as ever, was such a gentleman, and his speech was really sort of heartfelt and moving. But the thing I found funny was like this: a lot of the same fans had been putting up signs saying like Wenger, it's time to go. Thanks for the trophies, but please do one type stuff. And like I even saw on the way in, I even saw these fan sort of these YouTube people doing their like videos outside the ground, and I recognized some of them, and I thought, you've been on his back for ages. You've been so disrespectful, and you've been treating him with such disdain, and now you're sort of enjoying the sort of sentimentality of him leaving. But again, that wasn't sort of that's not Arsenal fans in isolation. I think a lot of fans are just fickle. But yeah, it was just interesting to see that, and yeah, and also the funny thing was that that Wenger's mic kept on putting out, and they had to replace it twice. So I think that was
his career in a microcosm, wasn't it? That was
exactly, yeah.
So the end of days.
But yeah, it was an incredible day. But yeah, I suppose from my point of view, selfishly, at least I can say that I was at two sort of like legendary farewells of like two of the greatest managers of their generation.
Yeah, and have the half and halves to prove it. Really enjoyed that, Naz. Particularly the facing down of Simeone and then legging it was probably my favourite of all of those pieces. People can check out @BeardedGenius on Twitter, including a new book coming soon. So stay tuned, I think, for all of that. And an absolute pleasure to spend the last half hour in your company. Catch up with you again down the track.
All right, see you later.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. That's Nooruddean Choudry, football writer and beyond, and a really interesting list of stuff to get through. Hard pressed for the quality that are there. I think that's in there for it to be matched anywhere else. OTB AM with Gillette.